Welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics, where we discuss some complex paranormal stuff. So let's dive back into the deep end of the pool and ask a pressing question people ask when they begin studying topics like life after death, and that is, do our personalities change when we die? And there's extreme points of view about this. Some people, typically those heavily invested into religious principles, certain East religious ideas particularly, may say that none of our personalities remain because we merge back with source consciousness or God, or we lose the ego identity and become something entirely different than what we are. But direct spirit communication and direct experiences on that side disprove these ideas and demonstrate that we are still ourselves when we cross over, and that's why mediums can talk to Uncle Larry, and Uncle Larry is still fly fishing on the other side and the higher density level because Uncle Larry is still Uncle Larry. So we discovered this as we researched deep into this field, which is good news for people who like other people, and it's bad news for people who don't like other people and don't like themselves, because some people, I think, they want to punch the delete key on themselves or their loved ones. But that's a different topic. But anyway, so this video is about our personalities, and given that they do persist, do they change? Does something change about how we act and behave when we switch from third density up into this fourth density level? Before we jump more into this weird, crazy topic, if you like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's down below, the big red button. This will keep the channel going because it is really difficult to get this channel going strongly. YouTube doesn't like unpopular channels, so if you like it, if you hit the share button, if you hit the notification bell, all of the above, it sends a little message to a little signal to the big YouTube brain that says, hey, this channel is somewhat relevant, which means keep it around, don't get rid of it. So need some help with that. To continue, so do our personalities change? My initial assumption would be no, but there's a lot of questions about neurology. So people get into this field, and especially the people who are coming out of a very skeptical, hardline scientific point of view, they might say, hey, the brain can do X, Y, Z to our minds and to who we are as people. And a lot of people say that there can't even be an afterlife because our personalities are too dependent on the brain. Now, I take a lot of issue with this because we can find out with the whole principle of mind over matter. Well, that literally means being in control of even the stuff that the brain is doing to you. So, I don't think the brain has the final say, but this is a philosophical point of contention. What I always like to hear with these types of debates is people who know what they're talking about, especially mediums who ask critical questions and they're not fluff-brained. And I know maybe they don't mean to offend a lot of mediums out there, but let's be honest, there's mediums out there, even some of the popular ones on YouTube, and they're not asking tough, critical, scientific questions to entities on that side. And you might be wondering, like, hey, Cyrus, you're an out-of-body guy, so you leave this world and you visit the other side and come back with information about it, which is what I do. It's kind of a main theme as well with my books. So what do you say? Do you say people's personalities change? And in my opinion, they do change in certain ways, but I haven't been able to put my finger on just what this difference is. And then we have Michelle Page who came along. Michelle Page is a medium who posts on afterlife topics and metaphysics, and she is one of those aforementioned people who knows what they're talking about because they use their critical thinking skills to ask those tough questions to people on that side to get some straight answers. And when we ask direct questions, we do involve the direct spirit communication. It's always super consistent. So it proves that this is a objective area of study. So Michelle Page knows a few things about the topics on the thread on Afterlife topics. I'm just going to repeat a little bit of what she was saying. And this involves the limbic system of the brain. So, the non-corporeal astral residents still have bodies, but they're not bodies that we are completely dependent upon, higher density bodies, are capable of experiencing the same range of emotions as the living. The one difference is, actually, a quick side note, I'd say some of these times, sometimes for some people, those emotions are significantly more enhanced. That's something I've noticed. The one difference is something colloquially known as the lizard brain, or the limbic system. It's a purely human thing, and it drives us to do things that override the more logical and rational parts of our brain. It also makes us go to emotional depths that are unique to being human. So I find this a little bit curious. Makes us go to emotional depths. I guess we could say that is like, because in my experience on that side, there's no lack of emotional depth, but we may be talking about something along the lines of severe depression. That's kind of what I'm reading between the lines here. When we're sans a body, I would add when we're sans our earth body, but have potentially in a astral body, or no body, but for most of us, an astral body that looks and feels like this body and still has blood cells and the whole spiel. When we're in a new body on the fourth density, we're missing the body chemicals that drive us, but we don't forget our behaviors, and we still seek highs and experience lows. What's missing are the depths and lengths we get driven to by the limbic system. That means alcoholics still have alcoholism issues, and drug users still have drug use issues, and angry people still indulge in anger. It's just not as intense and effective as it was here. And I suppose what this means is that the effects of the addiction isn't going to physically, like, destroy somebody. On the same note, it's not going to provide that psychological terror caused by potentially dying. But I'd say 3 of my close family members, they all died of addiction issues. So I know what that's like. So she says it's not as intense and effective as it was here, but if someone wants to indulge in mind-altering substances, they may keep doing that and it won't disrupt society. It's something they have to work out themselves. Some of this may have been in response to a report I put up about my father, whom my mother told me is on the other side and still showing addiction problems, and he is apparently taking LSD tablets like Tic Tacs out on that side. And she said he's very unbearable to be with at the moment because he's so, just going hog wild. So I think some of this may be a response to that report that I put up recently. Life on the other side has its challenges, and it's not as easy as one would think. We still have to exist with other people unless we want to go live on the planet of mountains and caves for solitary hermits, or I would add, create some self-contained replica of this world, or some fantasy world populated by mental creations. Some people choose to live like that. I wouldn't choose to live like that because I don't see that as healthy. Just like playing a video game all day long probably isn't too healthy. Living in a fantasy world wouldn't be too healthy either. Ultimately, the things that suck here don't suck so much on the other side. So there's a lot to unpack here. We're talking about the limbic system. We're talking about the lizard brain. And well, that's my doggy making faces at me. I turned the camera, but I'm afraid I might lose my image here. So anyway, if I can just not get... See, my lizard brain is getting distracted by my roommate's dog that is over here making faces at me. And let's get back on point. The limbic system. So the limbic system, the lizard brain. So give you an example, like what do I know about this? Like the flight or fight reflex or response. Things that override logical and sensible thinking patterns. If somebody is so overwhelmed by anger that they're no longer even thinking and they just want, they just want to kill, then that would be the lizard brain taking over. I think that when somebody is a slave to like evolutionary psychology, that might be the reptile brain taking over as well. Some people, they seem to be heavily influenced by sort of these baseline instincts. And it sounds like, or it seems like what's going on is that's the very neurological part of the brain that is dominating to the energetic part of consciousness, which the rest of the brain has the ability to regulate or assist with certain chemicals. Like, if you need to feel a bit of fear, you'll feel a bit of fear. I think all of these are energetic principles that are not tied down to the brain, but apparently maybe the limbic system, the old lizard brain, is something separate that ties that consciousness, tethers it down into the brain. And I think very much the limbic system could be responsible for a lot of times when it seems like the brain has dominance over ourselves. When you see those, scary reports on scientific journals saying that somebody stimulated this or that part of the brain and it caused somebody's, quote, free will to go away or something like that. Well, your free will go away if an emotion turns out of control and is now dominating your actions. It's almost like you're in a trance. Have you ever seen somebody so angry that it seems like they're in some kind of a trance, just going off at somebody? This is their lizard brain basically putting them into like a more primitive animal state. So on the astral side, if we don't have the lizard brain going on, probably we're better off for it. But it doesn't mean people don't get angry, people don't get sad or anything like that, or that their personalities would be significantly different. I would say that I've noticed, while I guess this kind of lizard brain overriding emotions may be eliminated, we do see a more expanded emotional depth in my experience. And what I mean by that is like, I think some of the kind of egotistical elements of our consciousness, our personality begins to dim. And so sometimes we begin to act a little bit more like we acted when we were 6 years old, and we didn't have this sense of separation, and we didn't have such a sense of, I guess, fear, trepidation, basically ego consciousness, as we put it. And it seems like it makes people, shall we say, more energetic, more excitable, and kind of bouncing around all over the place by comparison to here. Just think about how a 6-year-old acts. I'm not saying it's like this with everybody, but you get that kind of higher level of social receptivity, I guess, on that side. In my experience of astral exploring, if you're kind of new around these parts, a lot of people, we have this ability to go out of our bodies and appear on that side, same place people sometimes go when they have near-death experiences, and the same place people, the dead people from here, go when mediums like Michelle here is talking to them, well, we're also appearing on that side. And when it happens to me, I try to talk to people, interview people, and get information about this parallel dimension and learn a little bit more about what their society and what their world is like, which has thus led us to this channel and the books I do and afterlifetopics.com. You can get involved in all that by going to afterlifetopics.com, checking out this Facebook group called Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. We can scroll up and take a look at that. There we go. There's my eye logo, and this is the group. A lot of interesting discussion here. And we also have the classes, Afterlife University. So if you want to become a patron of this work, for $30 a month, you can get involved in twice a week for in-depth discussions. Helps keep this channel alive, helps keep this group going. So any help with that area is always appreciated. And I'll talk to you all on the next video. Keep that reptile brain in check.